Come, let us explore this evening's Dzogchen class and group practice, that we too could meditate like a Jedi. This evening's lesson is based on the 51st passage of the meditation classic Unwaning Victory Banner, composed so many centuries ago by the great Buddhist reformer Vajra. Together, let us relaxingly recite. Mind, the benefactor of the offerings, manifests various phenomena through the power of gaze. Attainment that derives from seeing is perfect, non-conceptual, primordial awareness, reality itself. Continuing with the theme of the futility of ritualism, the author reminds us that our offerings do not benefit any real or imagined celestial entity. It is us who make the offerings that experience some sort of enthusiasm or excitement or confidence or self-importance. Manifests various phenomena through the power of gaze. Gaze here is a metaphor of, in a smaller sense, perception, and in a larger sense, noticing. Noticing the full spectrum of human sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. The question we need to ask is not, are things real or unreal, or things beneficial or destructive? The question is, what are we noticing, and what are we going to do with that which we notice? Attainment that derives from seeing is perfect, non-conceptual, primordial awareness, reality itself. Contrary to many people who overemphasize emptiness, who overemphasize letting go, the author is reminding us of the power latent in vulnerability. As we breathe in, giving ourselves permission to notice vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. That this is not a failing. This is not greasy kid stuff. This is the key to a fulfilling life. Instead of fighting reality, instead of cupping our palms and placing them over our ears and insisting, la la la, I don't hear it, it's not happening. To be completely vulnerable to the present moment as we breathe in helps us to relax and release as we exhale. This set of noticing and relaxing is the key of sudden enlightenment. The Buddha said could be mastered in as little as 7 days. Having completed our opening lesson, we could now shift gears. It is Rey Skywalker's Sunday evening. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. After approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping, this is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering. Studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this evening's live stream, let's meditate. The Buddha, be he real or merely fantastic, is an excellent archetype of Yin's spiritual matriarchy, the poster boy for being flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. His real or imagined foolish cousin Devadatta was the opposite. As the poster boy for Yang's religious or irreligious patriarchy, he was rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. And these attributes are referenced by Sturgeon's Law, which reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, but no, not in the fun, tingly way. With 90% of not only all living beings and all Buddhists, but Buddhist teachers as well, being described by Yang's religious patriarchy, there's going to be a lot of confusion. These are the guys who implore their students to overfocus and overanalyze, describing such behaviors as concentration, contemplation, samatha, and vipassana. Yet despite these fancy vocabulary words, overworking our medial and dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is bad news. It causes us to present with symptoms of depression and trigger our amygdala, which functions as the seat of both anxiety and aggression. Fortunately, neither our amygdala nor the front of our brain constitute the entirety of our central nervous system. Consider our autonomic nervous system, the spinal cord. Every time we inhale, we have evolved to automatically access the middle part, described as the sympathetic nervous system, which has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice all manner of phenomena, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque, including the full spectrum of human perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, and imagination. But what do we do with that which we notice? Every time we exhale, we are evolved to automatically access the end bits of our spinal cord, described as the parasympathetic nervous system, which supports our physical relaxation and mental release to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, and less defining. All complex life forms evolve to think symbolically, so it should come as little surprise that every human culture uses figurative language. Consider this. As we relax into our exhalation, that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. My fourth grade teacher explained that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. Therefore, we have to ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand? It's good, it can be good to have a hook upon which to hang our hats. Is there a simple method for implementing all this information? Yes. Yes, there is. The easiest way to practice the mindfulness that could be described as noticing mind's antics is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this each time we feel our diaphragm pull in and down as we inhale. Similarly, the easiest way to practice the meditation that is simply relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature is to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease each time we feel our diaphragm relax and reset as we exhale. The easiest way for us to keep track of our first set. Hey, Dante, give me a second here. The easiest way. Well, let me just check this question real quick. Dante asked a question, and the question reads as follows. Hello, Lama. Where did Gyatso Rinpoche said we don't need initiations? Why everyone says the opposite? Where did he say that? Well, Gyatso Rinpoche explained that in what appears to have been his final meditation manual, which could be translated as the heart treasure of the enlightened ones. In the early part of my career as a Lama, I focus on Gyatso Rinpoche. Currently, I focus on the words of Prahe Vajra, who the Tibetans refer to as Garab Dorje. His Pancha Shastra, or 5 treaties, are the groundwork that are basically the essence of all the teachings on Dzogchen. So let's explore this a bit further. So the contemporary practice of Tantra could be described as Mahayoga ritualism and visualization, Anu Yoga's energy work, and Ati Yoga's mindfulness and meditation. When we read the 5 Shastras, the 5 treatises of Prahe Vajra, especially his final one, he said that we should abandon the practice of Mahayoga, abandon the practice of Anu Yoga, and content ourselves solely with the practice of Ati Yoga. So we are to abandon ritualism and visualization. We are to abandon energy work and simply practice the non-duality of noticing and relaxing in harmony with our autonomic nervous system. As a lifetime learner, I began as a Buddhist fundamentalist, and I was basically dragged kicking and screaming into being a Buddhist progressive. What influenced me were the teachings of the great masters. What makes the masters great is not that other people say they're great. What makes any teacher great is the effect their teachings have on us when we apply them. Like every Tom, Dick, and Harry who's studied Tibetan Buddhism for multiple decades, I enthusiastically practiced all three: Mahayoga, Anu-yoga, Hatha-yoga, ritualism, energy work, and mindfulness meditation for various reasons. Sometimes sentimental reasons, sometimes out of fear. I'm not sure in which country you live. I live in the United Corporations of America. That went from walking towards fascism to sprinting towards fascism. And it's very, very easy to say, man, I want to work magic. I want to be Gandalf the Grey, and I want to use all these cool tricks, of Tantric Buddhism to make Earth into a Pure Land. But the more I read and reread the treatise of the Buddha, the treatise of Zarathustra Rinpoche, and the treatise of Prahevajra, the more, I was shown that that's not the path. Once again, I keep going back to my favorite treatise by Prahevajra, which is his fifth one. He reassures his readers inferentially that by simply noticing what we dread and relaxing is the ultimate protection for ourselves and others. Similarly, that by noticing what we desire and relaxing is the ultimate wealth practice, good fortune practice. By simply noticing whatever comes up, be it a dread or a desire or something that is neither, by simply noticing and relaxing, everything is taken care of itself. And as I mentioned during this morning's reel, empathy is a barometer of our mindfulness and meditation. When we practice mindfulness and meditation correctly, we can't help but experience greater kindness of intention and communication and conduct and even commerce. The more we practice mindfulness and meditation, the more our choices, utterances, and deeds flow, not from contrived scheming, not from scattered spontaneity, but instead from a centered spontaneity. That centered spontaneity can guide our choices, utterances, and deeds in a direction that is very kind and nurturing for those in our sphere of influence. Does that mean we're going to be magical space wizards with laser swords? That would be pretty cool, but no, it doesn't. It means we get to be the healthy, well-adjusted people that our dogs already think we are, who are able to act upon present moment circumstances in an intuitively wise and loving manner. And for some reason, that seems to prevail. Sometimes immediately, other times eventually. Sometimes directly, other times indirectly. Sometimes overtly, sometimes subtly. Sometimes actually, sometimes just potentially. We live in a world where we affect and are affected by our circumstances, our bodies, our relationships, and our minds. Any fool can indulge their controlling tendencies and try to make things just so. If you're an old guy like me and you remember the Best of the Eagles way back from the 70s, there's a line in the song Tequila Sunrise. My oh my, you sure know how to arrange things. Someone more eloquent than myself once said, the best laid plans of mice and men were quickly torn asunder. The path of the Buddha, the path of Brahivajra, the path of Zapatrul is not one of control. It's not one of contrivance or scatteredness, but a type of spontaneity that is centered, whose dynamo is the mindfulness and meditation and the love that it fuels. So, okay, so doesn't ring a bell. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Dante. If you could elaborate, that would be helpful. But, oh, the quote? Yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to move forward now. So let's see. We've discussed the opening lesson. We've discussed the meditation instructions. So I'm going to tap button 9. The easiest way for us to keep track of our first collection of 144 inhalations is for us to rest the first knuckle at the base of our right index finger upon the tip of our left index finger, palms up in our lap. To keep track of our next 12 inhalations, we could use the tip of our right thumb to count the 3 sets of creases found upon each of the fingers of our right hand. By the way, something very similar happened with Mahamudra. Mahamudra and Vajrayana were 2 separate practices. And then over the years, they were combined as a universal, as a triune practice with Tantra Mahamudra being Mahayoga, being ritualism, with Bindu Mahamudra being energy work, and with Sutra Mahamudra being the marriage of mindfulness and meditation. But it didn't begin as a complete system. It began as 2 separate systems that were mashed together, kind of like the Frankenstein monster. This is not unique in the history of human affairs. Humans, for all kinds of motivations, tend to take the technologies they have at hand and experiment and combine and compare and contrast. The minority have the vulnerability and the flexibility to notice what works and notice what doesn't work and set the practices aside. The majority, 90%, are too rigid and fearful and elitist to ever evaluate the teachings according to the results they generate. And they, what's the word I'm looking for? Sanctimoniously attribute that rigidity to something lofty and useful and beneficial, but alas, it is far more destructive than it is helpful. To be blinded by the luminaries who have come before us, or who, most of which we have never met. We only know tales of them, and tales of tales, and tales of tales of tales. The Buddha, in his lesson to the citizens of, I'm probably pronouncing this, Kalima, of the Kalima citizens, he said, don't blindly trust the teachings. Test the teachings. We test the teachings in the crucible of our body and mind by applying them and noticing the results, and then basing our forward journey upon discerning what has worked for us and what doesn't work for us through experimentation. Let's practice. Aha, Dante wrote, I knew about someone who was striving to squeeze results from medicine Buddha practice. He paid all the initiations and stuff. He never got results. So yes, that is not uncommon. So here's something else that's very, very sad. The Buddha never charged anything. When we read Gampopa's Jewel Rosary, he implores that we never charge for the teachings. Now, there's one thing to accept donations, but don't let anyone fool you. A recommended donation or a mandatory donation is not a donation. It is a fee. And a fee and a donation are two different things. Fees are mandatory, and donations are optional. A good teacher will never turn someone away for lack of funds. A bad teacher will. Many, many lamas have lamented that due to the unusual, what's it called? Highly predatory nature of the Tibetan flavor of monasticism, wherein monasteries do not support nuns and monks, but rather charge nuns and monks room and board, and people had to pay fees for retreats and fees for empowerments. What happened is it became a system that was there's a wonderful word for it, it'll come to me, that basically was elitist, and basically said if you come from a rich family, you can live in this monastery and have these initiations and take these retreats for a fee that your family or benefactors will pay for. But if you have no benefactors and if you don't have a wealthy family, you're SOL. And so in Tibet, there evolved a culture of homeless yogis who would beg for alms and food and to be able to live and practice. Some teachers would teach for free. Some teachers would take care of the financial needs of their students and material needs. Others were predatory and would charge their students. Many Americans who have stayed at Tibetan monasteries in India were treated appallingly. They were not fed. And they were treated very, very badly and had to beg. That's not for 100% people all the time. You're always going to find kind and cruel, wise and foolish, a blend. The freedom the Buddha offers us is not freedom from lack. It's not freedom from illness. It's not freedom from scorn. It's not freedom from shame. It's freedom from the tyranny of what happens. After all, the Buddha had misfortune. The Buddha was assassinated. The Christ was assassinated. Lao Tzu was, what's it called? There's a special word for it. But he had to leave. He was banished. So just because someone has mastered the path doesn't mean the rain doesn't fall on them, doesn't mean they don't sweat in summer, doesn't mean they don't shiver in the winter. It means that they're able to notice and release in a way that feeds their contentment and their compassion and their cooperation. Fabulous. Fabulous. There's always going to be some kind teacher. There's always going to be some wise teachers. Let's practice. Just as we can use our right hand to count 12 inhalations, on our left hand we can count 12 sets of 12 inhalations each. There are people who put up roadblocks to the practice of mindfulness and meditation, saying it takes 3 kalpas or 7 lifetimes. The Buddha taught that his path could be mastered in as little as 7 days. That is why the great luminaries of Buddhism have always referred to sudden enlightenment and not gradual enlightenment. That, of course, begs the question, what is enlightenment? The Buddha does not offer us liberation from some sensations or some emotions or some thoughts. He offers us liberation from the tyranny of what we perceive, emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. Enlightenment is simply mastery of the Eightfold Path, practicing it spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. If your teacher cannot help you do that, then find a better teacher. Every 15 minutes or so, you may wish to adjust your legs if you're prone to arthritis. Remember, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or philosophy, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about every 5 minutes or so. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.